The Griot Podcast.
All right. 1 second. Y'all give me 1 second. I always have to verify on my end that it's saying we live. I just want to make sure we go get it in. Hold on. I'm messing up. Okay. We are live. We are live. So welcome to the Griot Podcast. Please give the Griot Podcast a hand, please. All right. I am one of the hosts of the Griot Podcast. I am Kofi Piesie. I am a writer, author, a publisher, a content creator, a music producer, and an up-and-coming film maker.
And my name is Sean P. I am an author, public speaker, podcast host of the Sean P. Experience. And now we are here at the Griot Podcast.
All right. Y'all, please like and share the show. Please like and share the show. Let me pull the comments up. We already have some people in the building. All right. So I'm gonna read down before we get started. I just always want to read the outline. We alternating the outline a little bit, but let's just read the outline down before we get into the show. So the outline of the Griot Podcast is we always open by honoring a teacher, a scholar, a writer, an author, and a revolutionary from the past. All right, a griot. We also have a segment where we talk about the griots and the griotes, and we're gonna do that today briefly. Me and brother Seanathan. We have a segment of history where we share some history from a book, article, or a journal. Storytelling. Storytelling. We give a story of our personal experience or from our journey as a writer or author or lecturer or speaker or speeches, because we are public speakers, we are lecturers, we are writers, and we are authors. We also do a music discussion where we talk about our favorite genre of music and new album release reviews. Current events, we discuss current events worldwide. Woman segment is the last segment, which is my favorite segment, where we always briefly talk and give flowers to our women who have contributed something of value to the political world, writing world, author world, business world, medical world, and academia world. But today we're going to alter it a little bit. Storytelling, the music review, and the current events. We're going to alter that today. We have two special guests, which we'll introduce, and then we'll let them introduce themselves later on within the show. And we're going to get all in their business. So we're going to have a new segment, which is the guest segment. So the storytelling, the music, and the current events, we're not going to do that today. And we're going to add in our guest segment for the day. And then the history going to come after that. I can't wait till we get in their business. I can't wait till we get into discussion in the history segment as well. So that includes the outline of the Griot Podcast. Brother Seanathan, the Griot Polidore, could you start us off, man, by introducing, man, one of our guests?
I'm going to tell you right now, bro, Dr. Wade, I ain't even read no slide on this, man. We talk way too much for this. I got my sister, Dr. Ashely Wade. She is a doctor in the world of the pharmacy realm, right? She is a published author, amazing book. And beyond any of that, she is actively in the community doing social work with the people out there, boots on the ground, healing people, connecting with people, and making a big influence out there in the world of Dallas, Texas. My sister, Dr. Wade.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now let me introduce my brother, Matt Jones, aka History Greek. Matt Coley is born from Fort Smith, Arkansas, a teacher, humanitarian, community activist, historian, researcher, and a bookworm, amongst other things. I just recently started talking to my brother Matt, man, and anybody that has Griot in their name, man, I just love them to death, man. So just off of the rip of him having that name, I love this brother right here, man. He's definitely a humanitarian. He's definitely a community activist. He's the community is very important to him. And just looking at some of his interviews, you know what I'm saying, he lives up to, being a humanitarian, being a community activist, and a teacher. He taught fourth grade students, man. So I'm also, I'm proud of him for being a mediator between the youth and the elders. All right, all right. So let's move along. So like I said, we always got to go through the opening segment. We always got to honor of someone before we open up the show. And if y'all following the outline, all of these things are something um from an African perspective. I look at everything from an African perspective. My worldview is from an African perspective or from an African lens. So we always want to honor those of the past. So we always want to honor those who came before us. So it's only right for us to always open up with an honoring segment of honoring those from the past. So today I will be honoring Andrew Rube Foster born. Andrew, Rube Foster. He was born in Calvert, Texas, September the 17th, 1879, December through December the 9th, 1930. He was an American baseballer, manager, and executive in the Negro League. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1981. Foster considered by historians to have been perhaps the best African American pitcher of the first decade of the 1900s. Also founded and managed the Chicago American Giants, one of the most successful black baseball teams of the pre-integration era. Most notable, he organized the Negro National League, the first long-lasting professional league for African American baseballers, which operated from 1920 to 1931. He is known as the father of black baseball. Foster adopted his longtime nickname Rube as his official middle name later on in life. So I want to send honor and praises to the late and great ancestor Rube Foster. And this is also going to be something that I may bring back up in we get to the history segment, because baseball also played a vital role in some of the rituals when we come to the Juneteenth celebration or the Emancipation celebration.
Yeah. And I gotta always add in real quick before I get to my little add in. So y'all in Texas, have y'all heard of him before this moment, before this segment? Because I haven't. It's new to me.
Same. This is news to me. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, I never heard of him before either. That's very interesting.
Right. And see, I love it. I'm a co-host on this show, but I'm always learning too. So as we doing this, I'm simultaneously learning in real time as we doing it. But I wanted to add in right now, I'm reading a book that came out a few months ago. It's called Blackball. It's about the NBA and the black players from the 60s and the 70s and the history of what they did and how that impacted social justice change and how these sports and politics are more together than separate, right? We see it as entertainment and all, it don't really matter. But as you can tell from Colin Kaepernick, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, different things in recent times, that these athletes, they affect a lot of social change, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you up next, Seanathan?
Yeah, I'm going to my slide.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
my bad.
So I'm highlighting George T. Ruby. He is a prominent historical figure known for his significant contributions to the civil rights movement during the 19th century. He was born in 1815. Ruby was an African-American activist, politician, and educator who played a vital role in advocating for the rights of African Americans in the United States. Ruby is best known for his involvement in establishing the Freedmen's Bureau in Mississippi, Kofi, after the Civil War.
Woo, woo!
Stand up, SIP, which provided support and assistance to the newly freed slaves in the region. As a politician, Ruby served as a delegate to Mississippi Constitutional Convention in 1868, where he actively participated in shaping the state's post-war political landscape and promoting racial equality. Ruby's dedication to education led him to become a prominent educator in the founding and operating schools of African American children, ensuring that they had access to quality education during the time of immense racial discrimination. George T. Ruby. Once again, before doing this research, I had never heard the brother before in my life, but I want to dig in further into him after the show. And I'm always curious for the past few years, brother Matt. I'm curious about those old schools after the Civil War, whenever things were segregated. I keep on hearing there was some of the best education ever to this day was during that time frame, those all black schools. You pretty much had one room or a little shotgun house. You had multiple ages, multiple grades in one room, probably one teacher, and they learned so much in that environment. So I want to highlight that.
Yeah, that's true. I'm one of my favorite people, Booker T. Washington, actually went to school like that. He had moved up north after he was after he got older, and he was working at a coal mine. And so there was a school they had just put in the town he had was living in, and I think it was a one room. And he went at nighttime just so he was able to go to school and get an education. And before he went to Booker T went to Hampton. He went to Hampton, so that's how he got his starting education. Was in a one-room school. I mean, that's how we grew up back in the day. Put all the kids in one room. Sunday school, you sitting there all together. Listen, I don't care if you 2 or 13. You go sit together. Y'all gonna learn together. That's what it is.
Yes, sir.
That's that communal learning, man. It wasn't about you in the 5th grade and you in the 10th grade. Like, nah, you the older person. You help teach them. Matter of fact,
Right.
Y'all help teach each other. It's to teach us to learn twice, right?
Right.
Yes, sir. So we want to extend honor and praises to George T. Ruby as well. Let's get into the Griot segment. So this is a segment. This is the Griot Podcast, right? So we have 3 Griots and we have 1 Griot. She is a Griot. And so we have 3 Griots and the Griot. So we're going to talk about the Griots briefly, and we're going to talk about the Griot briefly. If you want a full context of the Griots and the Griot, go to the first episode and we go in depth on both. But we're going to only talk briefly. I'm going to talk about the Griots real quick. And I'll throw a book up there as well. Definitely a must read that you must have, right? But this other book, we'll talk about it a little bit later. But the Griots and the Griot segment. So let's talk about the Griot. For those who may not know what a Griot is, right? A Griot today lives in many parts of West Africa and are present among the Mande people, the Mandinki, the Malinki, and the Bambara, the Fula, the Hassa, the Sangha, the Tukar, the Wolof, the Siri, the Massa, the Dagommi, the Mediterranean, the Dagommi, and many other small groups. The word may derive from the French translation Griot, of the Portuguese word crol, or the masculine singular term from servants, griots, are more predominant in the northern portion of West Africa. In African language, griots are referred to by the number of names. Jali is a name that you may hear a lot of people in West Africa refer to the griots are. So if you ever see the word Jali, they are referring to the griots. In the northern Mandi area, Jali in southern Mandi areas, in the Wolof, Gwala in the plural, in the Fula, and Igawini, excuse me, y'all, for turning some of these terms up. Griots forms the endogamous caste, meaning the most of them only marry fellow griots, and those who are not griots do not typically perform the same functions. What is a griot? Griot is unique to West Africa. So this term is unique to West Africa. You won't see this term used in East Africa. I should have been specified this. You won't see this term in East Africa. You won't see this term in North Africa. You won't see this term in Central Africa. It is unique to West Africa. The griot or Jali professional encompass many roles. The griot, pronounced griot, have been referred to as a historian, and a storyteller, but there are no real words in the English language that includes all of their functions. And the traditional griot could be everything from recounting history to composing music to teaching students to acting as a diplomat. They are genealogists, historians, spokespeople, ambassadors, musicians, teachers, warriors, interpreters, praise dancers, masters of ceremonies, advisors, negotiators, mediators. Not every griot does all those things, but these are all examples of the functions of the griot's professionals embodiment. Before Sean get into the griot part, every person on this panel has multiple characteristics or function in the same way that our West African griots are. We on this panel are modern day griots. We have utilized those characteristics and some of those ideals, and we have modernized it. So we are modern day griots. So Dr. Wade is a modern day griot. Brother Seanathan, the Polidore Griot, is a modern day griot. And our good brother Matt James, aka History Griot, is a modern day griot. Because as I read off the multiple roles that this important woman or man facilitate in their society, they are also demonstrating those things in our modern society today.
Give it up, give it up. Where the hand claps at? Where the hand clap? Hand clap too. I need me some cues over here. You could imagine me going off of that thing, boy. It wouldn't be no show. I'm going on to the Griot section, right, for the ladies. Going to the ladies. Give it up to the sisters, man. The Griots. Both women and men can be griots. Yet traditionally, gender-based biases have delegated female griots or griots to a lesser-known status. Griots and griots are trained in the same way, though griots tend to learn more from other women. Traditionally, griots specialize in history conveyed through spoken word, while griots focus on praise through song. Griots specialize in singing. Often men and women perform together, with the griot playing the kora and the griot singing. Traditionally, women do not play instruments like the kora or the drums, but sing instead. Lately, however, the differences between the men and the women griots have begun to blur. Exceptionally talented women can become master griots as well once they reach middle age. The griot is a female storyteller. She traditionally sings at the ceremonies, celebrations, and special occasions. When a woman is married, a griot will sing to her to prepare her for her new life. West African women sing about a woman's role in the society and their relationships with their husbands and in-laws. Griots also use song to express their independence and self-reliance, or to give comfort, encouragement, and empowerment to other women, right? The Sabi is a long poetic narrative form sung by West African women to reveal the nature of relationships between men and women. That's our griots. Shout out to the ladies. Salute.
Yes, sir. And let me touch on that too. When we dealing with the griots and the griots, we refer to ourselves as modern day griots. But you look at West Africa today, right? Those griots and griots have modernized themselves with time. So their roles have changed a little bit. And most of the time when you see a griot and a griot, right, we teach through different variations of art, whether it's through acting, whether it's through storytelling, whether it's through poetry, whether it's through singing, or whether it's through playing music. We are telling a story, right? Or we are teaching through these different methods of art, right? So they have modernized themselves. So when you see a griot, most of the time you will see a male griot with a kora and the balafon. Those are the two instruments of the griot. is the balafon and the kora. You will see the drums also play, but the drums is the oldest telephone. I'm saying a telephone because that's a whole nother subject when we start talking about those different skins stretched across those different methods of wood to create certain sounds that travel far and so forth. But they have modernized themselves as well. So you may see a woman playing an instrument, but most of the time, in ancient times, you would see the kora, if not the kora, the balafon by the male griot, and you will see them playing that instrument, and the griot is actually telling a story through her art. So she may be doing performance art. So she may be singing, dancing, and acting in the same sense. So I just wanted to talk about that as well, because they have modernized themselves as well as in West Africa to keep up with the times, right? So again, shout out to the griots and the griotes, right? So now let's get into the guest segment. This guest segment, we have, like we already said, we have Dr. Ashely Wade and Matt James, aka History Griot. So my good brother and good sister, would y'all please reintroduce yourselves to the listening audience? We have a uh 18 people that are in the chat watching right now.
Thank you guys for joining us. First of all, we're so happy to be a part of the Griots Podcast. Thank you for that history and those gems that y'all dropped earlier. My name is Dr. Ashely Wade. I am a practicing pharmacist. I love what I do. I love to consult and talk with people about their medications and just provide education for people who wouldn't normally have access to the education. I'll say that. I'm also a published author. I do have a wonderful book journal called It's a Journey, a holistic journal for discovering self. So I use that as an avenue. Hey, look at Kofi. So I use my book as an avenue to introduce shadow work and reading in the community. So I go to a lot of community events. I consider myself an advocate and an activist, I guess. So I'm just really focused on keeping myself grounded and connecting people with history, with reading, and being authentic and for the public, an authentic example for the public. I'll say that.
All right.
Hey, what up, y'all? I am Matt James, aka the History Griot, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm with my best friend, Dr. Ashely Wade. So, this is my road dog partner in crime. So, we always together. Like Kofi said, he gave a great introduction about myself. I am a teacher of fourth grade, but next year I'll be the eighth grade social studies teacher. So, moving on up in the world and stuff like that. Man, I don't even know what to say. I got this moment in life.
You good? Go ahead.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with the history, the griot on that. Like, that was crazy, a musician, all that stuff. I love music. I love teaching. I love reading. There's nothing that I'm afraid to jump into.
Like that.
Yeah. Man.
He is really the smartest person that I know. I always be trying to tell people love to think I'm smart. Like, oh, Dr. Wade. I'm like, no, really, Matt is the smartest person that I know. He put me on a lot of, like, as soon as I was coming into awareness, he put me on a lot of good reads. I think he brought a couple to share today, but he definitely put me on to a lot of topics. So I like having somebody I can vibe with. So thank you for allowing us to collab on this one.
No doubt. And before we get into some more of y'all business, I forgot. This is a great read right here. This is called The Griots and Griot. This is by Thomas A. Hale right here. So if you want that book, and this is the kora. So a lot of times you will see a male holding the kora of the balafon, right? And in a special project that we got going on, we definitely gonna talk about it a little bit. I'm gonna break down every segment of this kora in a project that we got going on pretty soon. But if you want this is a nice book. I'm telling you, this is a nice book. It's pretty thick book. I read this book many years ago. Gave the book away, and I had to reorder the book because I wanted to utilize some of the information in the book for a project that we got going on. And but again, Griots and the Griots by Talmadge H. Hale, a phenomenal piece of work if you want to understand the Griots and the Griots, right? So he walked you definitely through, and he was also one who was there to experience some of these things in a first-hand account, right? You know what I'm saying? And learn from the Griots and the Griots. He's got a first-hand account from them as well. So that is a great book to have to put into your library, right? So now, man, let's talk about some of y'all recent community active community um activisms, y'all research, y'all trips and y'all educational trips. Y'all are always doing something, man. I see y'all on Instagram a lot. And it actually inspires me to get more out in the community because at one point in my life, I was just like that out in the community. I done slowed down a lot. I still do some stuff in the community, but not as much as I used to do stuff in the community. I still do stuff in the community, but not, I'll say, on the level that I see y'all doing far as the traveling, you know what I'm saying? The different events that y'all are a part of, the different panels that y'all are part of, man. So y'all can start wherever y'all want to start in, man. Let's get into some of y'all. Y'all can work y'all way from the past all the way up to recent if y'all want to, man. But let's get into some of this stuff. Let these people know some of the activism work that y'all are definitely doing out here in the community.
Well, the first thing I want to introduce you guys to, since you brought up the activism component of what we do, shout out to my brother, Mark Walters, that's on here. He is the founder of the Luke 418 Bell Fund. Shout out to him. We'll drop the... Y'all, Kofi gonna kick me out. Kofi is probably sick of me.
You good. You good. Go ahead. We having fun.
I gotta go buy one of them.
He's the founder of the Luke 418 Bell Fund. So he basically created the avenue for our activism, or my particular activism. So what we do is bail people out of jail, out of the county jail, and look for ways to connect them with resources. So Dallas is a unique city. Very unique city. We have tapped into the history. I wish I had brought that accommodation. I wasn't even thinking about it. But we have really tapped into the history of the racial history of Dallas based on this book called The Accommodation, written by Jim Schutz. And so he kind of gave us some insight into what happened to the Black people in Dallas, who some of the key players were. So we like to support our brothers and sisters when they get out of jail by also connecting them with services and also hopefully giving them an opportunity to connect with history so that they can see, some of the schemes that have been set up against our people. And then not only that, also see the greatness of what our people created in Dallas. We also partner with our lovely Pinkert family at the Hidden History DFW tour. We've been on it three or four times. Yeah. So they are a phenomenal couple. They're griots. Yeah. And so they give people an opportunity to tap into the hidden history or history that has been hidden from us right here in Dallas. A lot of people are local. They go on the tours and they're like, man, I didn't know this, or I didn't know that, or I didn't know that section used to be Black. And so what we try to do is connect people to history and give people an opportunity to be authentic, give people the opportunity to connect without judgment, while also giving them freedom from captivity, from being locked up in the Lucerne County Jail. So that's part of what we do.
Sounds right. From my end, I'm the historian part, so I bring history to context. Everything that's going on nowadays is a repeat of basic history. So you can pull out any history book, you can pull out any chapter, you can find what's going on there. Ain't nothing different than what they were doing 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, not even 100 years ago. So I bring the context of history. So I'm always around, and Usually when something goes down, I usually get that little beep, boop, beep, that like a little computer spit out some information, might hit you with a little gem or a dollar sign, something like that. But my most recent thing was I went to New Orleans about 2 or 3 weeks ago for the Black Southern Women Collaborative. It was a phenomenal event. It was hosted by women. So again, giving shout out to women. They really hold us down. We need to really give them more respect and more props than what they actually deserve. So that was a cool experience going out there. Got the training on organizing, voting, all that good stuff. So that's gonna be my thing that I'll be working on once school started, getting voting going on for the kids and teaching them how voter registration, education, politics, all that good stuff works out because they're gonna be our future politicians.
Period. And we also like to support the Sunny South Dallas Food Park. We are very intentional about the people and the spaces that we connect with. So a beautiful young lady, her name is Dee Powell. She created basically a safe space for Black and brown businesses specifically. And so we get to come out to Fair Park. There's a lot of history of Dallas connected to Fair Park. So we get to go there and do business. There's food trucks, and there's also really amazing vendors. I'm almost always there if I can with my book and also my bookshelf to give people the opportunity to look at books at a place where they wouldn't normally be introduced to literacy or be exposed to literacy.
Okay. No, most definitely. Y'all, you got a question. I got two questions. One question is from a crazy person. But he cool, he cool. But this is from my brother Vasa Nicolo Gullah. He says, can you ask them about the Greggs family, both Allen, the father in Dallas, and the Suttons, his son, and if they're aware of the work they did in Dallas, if you don't mind. Are y'all familiar with the Greggs family?
I've never heard of the Greggs family. Now, is it not supposed to be Griggs by chance? Because if it's Griggs, we know about the Griggs family.
Well, that might be what he's saying. I said Greg. Does that?
Well, no, I said Greg, but I didn't know because I've never heard of the Greggs family. But we always here to learn more information because I've never heard of the Greggs family, nor the Suttons either.
Okay.
And the cool part about what we do is we're still piecing together a lot of the history. A lot of the history of Dallas is distorted. Depends on who you ask. Depends on who you talk to that can tell you what. And so we are piecing together a lot of the history and who had land, because there were a lot of Black people, successful Black people who had acres of land. So I'm not sure if that's exactly who he's talking about, but yeah, there's a lot of good, amazing people who did work, especially in the 50s and 60s in Dallas.
Well, Vasa, if you still on here, man, put in the chat, man. Just give us a little bit more information, a little bit more detailed information.
Yeah, it could be Griggs. Let's clarify that for sure.
And this is Pure Black. Shout out to Pure Black. He says, is Seanathan White legit in Dallas or Fort Worth? I guess he's talking about the work. He's always talking about the work that he has been doing in the community as far as with the youth. So I guess he's asking y'all, since y'all in that area, is he legit? Do y'all see him out there?
It is Griggs. I'm sorry. It is that. Yeah, it is. It's Griggs. It's Griggs Park. And so yes. I'm pronouncing that name so wrong.
I think Vayasa.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it, Kofi?
It's Vyasa. I call him Vasa.
It's Griggs, Grigg. We know about Reverend Allen Griggs. He actually has a park in Uptown. It's called Griggs Park. It was Negro Park #1, the first Black park dedicated for African Americans in the city of Dallas, and I think it had to be the early 1900s, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, that's him. The church got money together to actually build that park, and it's a beautiful park.
It's a beautiful park.
It is huge, and the bad part of it is now that area has been totally gentrified. There's no memories of anything Black there other than the name of the Griggs Park. Oh, and the Freedman Cemetery, which is not far around there, but there's nothing that actually symbolized that this was a Black area of Dallas, because when Dallas first created, it was only 1 square mile, and that was the outskirts, so that was considered as far north Dallas. So that was our part of town. That was State Thomas area. That was Freedman Town. So Yeah, but that's Alan Griggs. So yes, that we do know a little bit about that gentleman right there.
And actually, we did our first project there. We first learned about Griots Park on the Hidden History Tour. And I just completely, he gonna look at me crazy because I act a fool. Ever since I learned that that was Black land, when you see it, we had our first experience there. There may be one Black person out of like 100 at the park.
Yeah.
So again, that area has been completely gentrified. So when I got off the bus and they was like, "Oh, this used to be Black land," I was like, "This our shit." You know, y'all need to know PSA, public service announcement. All this was Black land, and so I have that same energy. I've tried to channel it on the subsequent times that we go, but I have this like urge to boast and be like, y'all looking at us like we strangers. This group of 50 Black people getting off a bus, but y'all are really strangers. But there is
that's so crazy because
that I do want to shout out
so,
to Sanders, Ruth Sanders. She just recently passed away. She had the last original house in that area. Everything else has been completely torn down, rebuilt. It looks completely different. But there are some some of the original homes of the wealthier Blacks at that time. But Ruth Sanders, she was one who like took students in who were wanting to go to school at Booker T. Washington, which was like a block or so away, a couple of miles away. So she was a huge factor in a lot of the Black education that took place in Dallas.
Okay. Let's go ahead, Sean. You had one. You was finna say something. You had something.
No, I was just saying it's sad how all across the nation, that's the reoccurring theme is just total erasure of the history. And there are people like us, the griots, if we're not putting this stuff in our mouth and putting it on our podcast, our platforms, it's just lost. And our children won't know it. Our grandchildren surely won't know it. So it's gonna be on us to keep this stuff in rotation, keep putting it in your head until you get it. Like we did so much that's gone, man.
True.
That's why it's so important. That's why I champion writing and publications. It is very important for us to tell our story from our own perspective and tell our story before our story no longer exists.
Right.
So it is our duty. It is our duty to publish books. That's why I don't care nothing about, dang, Kofi finna put out another book. Yes, Kofi finna put out another book. I'm finna keep writing because I understand what is going on right now. I'm paying attention. I'm tapped in. I'm tuned in. So this is why, I see my sister, she does what she does on her platform on Instagram. I see why Sean does what he does on his platform. You see why I do what I do on my platform, because we are trying to make writing and reading cool again, right? Because it is cool to read. It is cool to write. So
it's cool to read.
It is cool.
So, it's important for us to tell our stories. It's important for us to jot these stuff down and write it so we can have this for the next generation. Because what's going to happen is if we don't continue to do this and get other people on board like we are, what's going to happen is it's going to continue. Our children are going to continue to have low self-esteem because there is going to be nothing at all that they can gravitate to, that their ancestors contributed to, and they're going to be learning about people that does not, which they already are, but definitely going to be learning about things that people contributed, way later after our ancestors had already been doing some of these things. So it's going to start to create development, and low self-esteem, and it's also going to create a development of what I have already been seeing or experienced in my hood is I'd rather believe someone that doesn't look like me because I'm not intelligent enough. So I have to listen to the European. I got to listen to the Arab. I got to listen to the Pakistani. I got to listen to the Japanese. I got to listen to the Chinaman. I got to listen to the Indian because I see no value in me because when I go in school, I didn't see anything that our ancestors did of value, anything that they contribute. When I got to the so-called high institutions of college, I seen none of these things. So now I have developed a low self-esteem. my people wasn't nothing, so therefore I'm not gonna be anything. So we just have to change the narrative, y'all. We have to change the narrative.
Kofi, I didn't know you was gonna preach today. I'd have brought my rag out.
And I wanted to add in. I've been saying this a lot lately, right? We see that Tyler Perry got the BET studios now. He got the VH1 studios now. He had his own studios already. I'm hoping that people like him could take these stories and turn them into film, turn them into series, turn them into things that a lot of folks not gonna take and read a book this big, right? But if you put it on the screen, it'll spark your mind, hopefully, to say, man, that was interesting. Now let me go and find a book on that topic. Let me go and find something I can read and get more about that particular character besides a 40-minute Hulu series. Let me go and dig into it. I'm hoping that will be a start of a trajectory to have these stories captured, man.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So let's talk about y'all visiting the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum, man. How was that experience, man, going into? I checked out the conversation y'all had, man. It was it was a great discussion, man. It was a great discussion, man. So, kind of talk to the listening audience that we have, man, about y'all experience at the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum.
We appreciate you watching that. As I said when we did I will tiptoe on this conversation because I do not want to get nobody canceled at all. So I will tiptoe. But it was an awesome experience. Going to it, I knew a little bit about the Holocaust, and because it's crammed in your head every year in school until you graduate from at least public school. So you know at least a little bit about it, but it was some of the images and some of the ways that they portray things that really just bothered me a little bit.
Don't tap in.
But the information they gave me was real striking. One of the images, they show a picture of Abraham, and
the first
image is Abraham, and he's white. And I read books about Abraham, and I know Abraham ain't a white man, especially not being from the Middle East. Like, it's literally, thank you, right? Say that.
Literally.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying nothing else, but how does it geographically even make?
It's
like a simple third grade geography. Like, come on, do you own a globe to see where the? Come on, man.
But yeah, so that was the first thing that like really bothered me. I'm like, y'all already starting out wrong. Like, then you go up and then they show pictures of Egypt though, but it's black people in Egypt though. But how do you? I don't understand. How is one white, like, should they skin burn, boil, and be blistered by the time they leave from there? I mean, if you're in the sun, Egypt, I know it's hot. It's the desert. It got at least be about 100 degrees like it is in Texas right now. So, I mean, you're going to have some type of cancer eventually from being in the sun that long. And so, yeah, that was the first part.
And then another highlight was the fact that, because I like history, I love to read it, but this guy is a guru with geography. So there was a map and he was like, see, what's missing? He looking at me like, I know what's missing. I don't know. Tell me what's missing. Ukraine. So he's very good moving around the map too. So that was very helpful.
Yeah, Ukraine was not a country in 1941. It was part of the Soviet Union. And that's why Russia's pissed off right now, because you were part of the Soviet Union. You belong to me. So, you know what I'm saying? And not only that, Israel, the Holy Land, as we know today, was not created as a country until 1948, 3 years after World War II. Does anybody ever wonder why? No, we don't. But we just blow it off. We think Israel, yes, Israel's been talked about in the Bible forever, but why did it only become a country in 1948 if it's been around here for eons? You know what I'm saying? So that's some of the things that also together, because now you're not telling the truth. You're not telling the truth. So that's also another part that kind of like, bothered me a little bit, especially me being me, knowing history and geography. Like, it's something not adding up right here. So
yeah, that's why it's important to study maps. That's why it's important to understand archaeology, anthropology, paleontology, all these different things, genetics. You know what I'm saying?
I want to pose a question right quick. So Matt, do you think this curator, you think that they're just memorizing something that they're told to give all the patrons, or do you think that's their individual, what they think of history and their knowing of history.
And
Because the deeper question is, I don't think the curator even know.
I would honestly, it might be
I
both.
wouldn't be surprised.
It might be both, depending on. Well, you know what? Yes, 90%. No, not even 90%. 98% will be from what the curator tells somebody, and they're repeating that information back. The
Right.
other
Over and
2%
over and over.
would be somebody who's been looking at this information, but nobody really. We don't do that no more. We go to all these other platforms. I was born in '89. So I remember those, like, I have no Google.
Say it like it's so old. You're born in '89. Come on, man. Stop that, bro. Stop that.
I had this encyclopedia, so I had to look for information. So, we had to go out there and search for it. So now you can go and just find it, and you'll believe anything anyone tells you instead of doing research for yourself. That's the problem with us now. That's why we're in the situation we're in now, because we believe somebody's information that they were telling us, not knowing that we already knew this information. Y'all just twist it around. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I want to pose that question because I know we love to say, man, the school didn't tell us this, and the teachers didn't tell us that, and my junior high history teacher said this. But you think deeper about it, they didn't even know.
That part.
Like the four of us on this panel have probably read more stuff than most of those school teachers at any given school right now.
No lies.
So the student can't rightfully say, man, they didn't even know this. They didn't know their damn self. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm getting at.
And so that's why I think there needs to be more truth seekers, more explorers. We like to put title and label things, but we also can be explorers in the same right so that we could unravel the truth and uncover the truth. I mean, because even going through in the museum and seeing the hate and how they organize people because of their religious freedom, really. Just because of their religious freedom, they were organized, shuffled into these ghettos.
Right.
Ghettos, and then transported to concentration camps. But there were so many concentration camps. And I think even when we learn as young people, we think, oh, there was the one, or the two, or the three. I don't think people realize just how vast the hate was. You know what I'm saying? And like Matt always likes to bring up, it's white people that don't like white people. It's not just about black and white. White people don't like other white people. And he even talked about that on our live about Italians and like other people of different descent being hated. So, I think we need to spend some time on that, because people like to sit at like love, we should love. Yeah, but you're not, who you preaching to?
The choir.
I know we have only a certain amount of time for the show.
Other cultures that need to be rehabilitated on their own hateful ways. I'm going to leave that right there.
Yeah. I know we have a certain amount of time for the show, but Dr. Wade and I had a wonderful discussion a couple of days ago about, is love and hate natural, or is it taught attributes? That'd be a great discussion to have on a different date to flesh it out a little bit, the way that we did.
For sure. Let's get out my questions for Dr. Wade. Dr. Ashely Wade, what did you learn about yourself after finishing writing your book?
I learned about myself once I finished that I am a part of evolution. A lot of times, especially, we like to look at ourselves chronologically. I'm this many years. But I don't think we take the time or even are aware that we should evolve. And so once I finished the book, I felt good about the presentation, because a lot of people would approach me for different levels of advice, to hold space. Hey, sis, what do you think about this? And so when I created it, I felt like I wanted people to be able to walk away with something that they could follow, but then still be open-ended. And so what I learned is that open-ended is so important, because people need to know that the evolution is continuous. This isn't an end-all be-all journey. You know what I'm saying? One book is not going to fix your life. One exposure is not going to fix your life. There has to be some level of evolution that we accept and that we honor individually. So, I like to then follow up with a book after you finish the journey. I mean, my journal, because it's not an end all. It is a place that you can be catapulted off into your own personal evolution.
I'm already writing inside of my book already, man. So I appreciate the book. You know what I'm saying? It makes you look at yourself and ask questions about yourself and evaluate yourself and how do you look at yourself in the next few years. So I enjoy reading the book. I enjoy answering the questions. You know what I'm saying? And that you had in the book as well, man. So I appreciate your publication. It's a journal, a holistic journal for discovering self by Dr. Ashely Wade. This is it right here. If you want to get it, her information is in the description. Her website is in the description. And as we always say, patronize the author directly. She has it on other platforms, but if you truly want to support an author, always ask them first. If you can't get a response from them, then go to those marketplaces. But if you get a response and they say, yes, I sell my own intellectual property, ask them how can you get it, and go patronize the author directly. That is a true way of supporting. But you have those who say, hey, just go to Amazon or Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million. You have people, authors that, prefer that way. But I always say if you want to support us, support us going directly. And I'm not gonna get into percentages. I talk about percentages all the time, which is trash, but I want all my money for my intellectual property. But
Try to make it special. So when you order from my website, I can make it personalized for people all across the country. Because it is a personal journey, and I like for people to feel seen even before they started. So thank you for that, Kofi.
no problem. My good brother, man, History Griot, man. What made you incorporate Griot into your name? I would love to know.
Kofi said that's the $1,000,000 question right there.
So I'm gonna give you the backstory on how I learned about Griot. It was my first year in college in 2013. I had to take my first African American studies class. It was Black culture, and we had to do critical thinking. And that was the first time I ever had to do critical thinking. Because I'm like, what does this mean? Like you think all the time, but critical thinking is actually like analyzing, and there's different steps to it. So when I learned about that word, I'm like, okay, this is an interesting word. And I knew who some griots were already because I grew up around them. As I went through my journey, I should say, I've learned things, I've experienced things, I've lost things. And so over the time, I've just gained a wealth of knowledge, and I cannot keep this knowledge to myself. It's not meant for me to keep to myself, because if that was the case, I would meet wonderful people like you all and my dear friend Dr. Wade as well, to where I can share this information. So that is one thing, because a griot is a storyteller. But not only that, it started way before then, because I'm a musician. I used to play cello. I can read music. I can score. I can sing. I can do all that stuff. So I guess that's been part of my nature ever since I came out the womb. I literally was destined for this. I was prepared for this. My grandmother prepared me for this. She put me in this, had me all around with her, and she's a griot as well. She lived to be 95 and would tell stories all the time. So I think this is a destiny for me. This is my purpose-driven life.
Same. I love that.
It's on you, Sean. You on mute, brother.
I got you. I'll get my slide.
Oh.
So my first question goes to Dr. Wade. Dr. Wade, when it comes to the world of writing, what do you anticipate your next book to be about? Are you working on your next project? Is it in the making? Are you on the manifest? What we at with it?
Well, actually, I liked the format that I used for the first book. So I decided to keep that for my second book. I am working on something. I have the table of contents laid out because it gives me an opportunity to teach. So we're gonna deep dive into some more of like the topics, not just your traditional alignment manifesting, but how to pay attention to signals and signs and how you evolve and elevate, what that feels like when you connect with happiness, what that feels like. Because I feel like this book, my first book, was made like a foundation, just to get you started, just to get you used to being analytical, just to get you used to exercising your perspective and you're even becoming conscious aware. because people need that introduction. You know what I'm saying? To awareness. I was able to receive it by my good friend, Dr. Said Adams, who challenged my thought process. And so that I actually shot him out in the book, but I like how he made you challenge your own thinking. And so I like that concept of laying out something that's a little bit of a strategy, but then still challenge the person's thought and encourage writing and journaling and expression as you learn. So yeah, I do have something in the works.
I love it. I love it, man. I can't wait to see
I'm
it.
coming straight to Kofi when it's time to publish.
Yeah.
Ooh,
We're gonna do a fire show on whenever it drops. We're gonna do a fire show about it too.
yes, sir.
We're gonna do all that. We're gonna do all that. So
Oh, yeah.
my brother Matt. So for those that don't know, we got a nice project coming out in the next few months, and our brother Matt here blessed us with a nice forward to the book. So first of all, tell the people your experience writing a forward for a project for the first time, I think it was. And the second part is, after doing that experience, do you plan on like writing your own book ultimately and doing your own project after that?
First of all, again, thank you both for putting me into that, inviting me into that. Was I feel really appreciate and honor. At first, I was a little skeptical. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I ain't never done this before. I'm not going to do this. I almost said no. But after talking to my good friend Mark Walters, who was on earlier, and this one right here, she kind of pushed me into it. I said, let me go ahead and do it. But that was the start point. After that, I didn't know what to say now. What do I say? I had wrote something originally, but that's not what I ended up with. Like how a pastor does when he writes a sermon. You know, he'll start at the beginning of the week and he'll write it out, but then it won't be till Saturday night that the Lord comes in and say, nah, change it up and write something different. So that's what really happened. But it really said, nah, change it up and write it this way. So I appreciate that. Now, you know, we never know. I love to read, and I would love to be able to share my experience with people through my words. I'm a really good writer from what I've been told from all through elementary. I can write and put sensory details and give you visuals, you know, just from looking at the certain words. So I would love to do something like that. Do I want to? I would love to. Now, do I have the time to? That's the good question, because that's the thing. I tell everybody I need an assistant now.
Me and Sean were just talking about that.
I need an assistant, so I would love to. I just really would need the time to dedicate to do that. But it's never not on the table not to write a book or something like that.
I like that. Good.
Yeah.
Hold on. I ain't going for that. I ain't got no time. I ain't going for that.
We were just talking about that with Sean P.
Go ahead, Sean.
Why you funny, Kofi? No, I was only going to say that in my past projects, I would seek out friends in my circle that never wrote before in their life and let them write the forward, introduction, afterward, other things like that, just to get their feet wet in the process of being published, with the hopes and the dreams that they would say, you know what, that felt pretty good. Now I'm going to do my own project. And fortunately, it has happened a few times. A few of my friends have gone on and published their own books, and I'm proud about that, man. So yeah, come on to the world, Matt.
You never know. So I can never say never, but I can never say yes at the beginning. I never know what I'm going to do. So that's why I like to leave it open end. I like that. So
believe it or not, he thinks he's comfortable in the shadows. He thinks that's his safe space, but it's not.
I'm seeing him. I'm feeling him out. He has a lot of skills. I'm noticing a lot of skills, hidden talents.
Mm-hmm.
He try to tuck it down, but we see it.
No, what it is, honestly, is I'm really humble. So I can do a lot of things, and if I don't focus on one thing, I'll be all over the place. I really will, and that's my biggest thing. I think everybody has some form of ADHD, so that's my problem. I'll be scatterbrained. Like, but
you know so much. Yeah, that's why
I know. You ain't got to
create you a schedule.
Not in front of everybody. Can we wait till you go off and we can do that?
Create you a schedule and follow that schedule. And when I tell you, I'm a busy person. I'm definitely a busy person. And I work 7 days a week, 20. I'm up all night. Sean Me and Sean be talking 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. So and it's about I have created a schedule. So
The
I have
night crawlers.
right. So we have schedules that we follow, and you just have to be tentative with the schedule. I'm gonna tell you when I was doing Africa's Hair before doing it after slavery, I had 3 clients, books I was publishing all at one time while writing my own book, and I just spaced it out. I'm not gonna say I was overwhelmed. I was totally overwhelmed, but I just utilized the time. Hey, I'm gonna knock this out. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna edit. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna rearrange. I'm gonna rephrase. I'm gonna do this over here. Boom. Then I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna allocate some time over here. I'm gonna allocate 3 hours. Well, I'm gonna get some writing in for my own project. Boom. I'm gonna get through with this. I got some reading I want to do. I'm gonna do some reading on the back end. Get through with the reading. I dedicated an hour and a half for that. Boom. I get through with this. I'm gonna go to my next client. I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z here. And then, you just have to, just make a schedule. Because if you don't make a schedule and follow the schedule, like you said, you're going to be all over the place and you're not going to be able to get none of the stuff that you want to get or you want to see get done because you're all over the place. But once you lay it all out and you just follow it to the tentative, I'm guaranteed you're going to get it done. Oh, okay. I said I was going to do 2 hours here. So I'm done with this over here. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to relax, do whatever I do. Then I'm going to allocate a few more hours to over here and do that. It just all depends on how much you want certain things. And a lot of stuff, man, I want a lot of stuff and I know I can't get it. I can't get it by, not setting a schedule and not being afraid to do it. I used to be like Matt, being afraid or second guessing myself. Like the conversations that I done had with Matt over the phone, Matt is a smart brother.
Yes.
And I just see
Beyond.
like, right. And I see just
Beyond.
through the conversation that this is just my personal observation that he second guess himself or he doesn't believe in himself as much as the people around him believe in himself. I only been knowing Matt maybe 2 or 3 months, this conversation over the phone, and just through the, us conversation and me observing and looking at, him and his sister that's on the panel, Dr. Wade, and their exchange on Instagram, the brother is smart. He's highly intellectual. You know what I'm saying? And I just think, man, that you just come out of your shell. We telling you, brother, you got it. We telling you, you got it. Stop second guessing yourself. Come out of the shadows. We need your participation. Just like you out in the community, far as being an activist and making people be the highest human as possible, you can do the same thing through the writing. The writing world is the same form of activism. So you're doing it from a level or from a scholastic level. So, brother, stop second guessing yourself, man. Utilize the people that surround you. And that's what I done over the years. I utilize the people around me, the people that believe in me, the people that has more experience than me, the people that is more smarter than me. I utilize those people as an asset, you know what I'm saying, in order to develop my self-esteem, because I had low self-esteem at one time. I second guessed myself, you know what I'm saying, and certain things I wanted to do, I wasn't able to do. I'm a very creative person. So just utilize us, man. Sean, reach out to Sean. Sean, like I said, Sean will help. I'll help. Your best friend on the side of you will help, bro.
Man.
We will help.
Anytime, bro. Anytime.
Yeah. Just tap in. We not gonna send you the voice. I ain't gonna send you the voicemail. I'm gonna pick up, and if I don't pick right up, I'm gonna definitely call you back.
Yeah. I just want to say something that Dr. Wade and I was talking about this like yesterday, right? We were talking about most of us have various jobs and duties, and we still trying to squeeze time to do these platforms, do these podcasts, go in the community, write books, do interviews. Like it's crazy, man. Because I'm always thinking about people say, man, the speech was so good, Sean. I'm like, man, imagine if I had nothing but time to write. Like, I want to write a speech. Imagine if I only did interviews. Imagine if I only wrote books, how good that could be. This only like 40%, 50%. Like, imagine if I had to full out, I'm just doing this. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But we'll make it happen.
Oh yeah, we gonna make. I'm
Hey,
gonna stay.
make it happen.
I'm gonna stay on it. I'm gonna stay on it. He gonna get tired. He gonna probably start sending me. Doc,
He
sis,
gonna be sick of me.
yeah, Sister Wade. He done Kofi done called me 3 or 4 times talking about the darn book, talking about writing the book. Could you please talk to him and tell him to stop calling my phone? I'm not answering his phone call.
I'm gonna be like, get your tail over here.
But Matt, I tell you, Matt,
Laptop out and let's get busy.
whenever I read your forward, Matt, I was very impressed. I was very pleased. And I don't know if you saw what we wrote ahead of time or not, but it lined up perfectly with what Kofi and I already had wrote prior to your writing. So it all lined up. It was good, bro.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate that for real.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, man, let's get into, man, let's get into the history segment, man. Let's get into the history segment. But before we get into the history segment, I want to pay some bills. Sean, show your shirt, Sean. So we got the shirt. I wanted to play the little commercial I made with the music, but I don't know how Spotify is. Far as if I play this music in the promo commercial that we had, but we have shirts, we have pants, we have socks, we have pins, we have flags, we have slides, we have coffee mugs. Go support the merch, man. Go to Mboka Family Connect Apparel and get you some the Griot Podcast merch. I mean, it's fly. We got all various colors in the pants, in the shirts, and we have 2 colors in the slides. We have a white version and then we have an all black version. So go check us out, man. Go get you some merch. But let's get into the history segment. So the history segment, let me do this. I should already have this. Hold on. If I can find it. Oh, okay, here it is. No, go ahead, Sean. You finna say something?
No,
I was trying to find a sister.
I'm just being silly while you doing that.
Yeah.
I just want to say,
junior high colors, man. Franklin Rattlers. Got that blue and gold, man. There she go.
Yeah, hold on. All right, so this is the grandmother of Juneteenth. This is Oprah Lee. Some of y'all may know who this elder is, and some of y'all may not know who this elder is. Some of y'all may question her activism for as making Juneteenth a national day, and it's over the past Juneteenth or Emancipation Day, right? I received 2 calls on Juneteenth. I was also part of the Juneteenth ceremony and part of the Juneteenth parade. I posted some of the stuff on Instagram. Got a lot of footage, got a lot of pictures. I just hadn't posted them yet. But the conversation, I just been having some interesting conversation. I got 2 phone calls on Monday about Juneteenth, and then I seen a post from one of my friends about Juneteenth, some interesting things, surrounding around Juneteenth, or even the decision about even nationalizing Juneteenth, or should we even be celebrating Juneteenth. So I had to break down some stuff dealing with Juneteenth. Juneteenth is nothing but an Emancipation Day, and there has been many Emancipation Days, which we're going to talk about, because I want to get into the history, the rituals. So we have some sisters, and before we do that, we always want to throw up some books. So this is a book that we read right here. It is called On Juneteenth. This is by Anita Gordon Reed, right? It is a winner of the Puzzler Prize, right? So this is a small book, something, man. It's not a intimidating read, something that you can read. So I was able to get some great information out of here, or learn some things that I didn't know, and some things I already knew. This is another great book that I'm gonna tell people that they need to get. I'm telling you right now. It's called "Oh Freedom: Afro-American Emancipation Celebration." This is an excellent book, if you want to learn about the history of Emancipation Day or Emancipation Days, because there were more than one Emancipation Day when it comes to Juneteenth. And there is a lot of information dealing before you get to Galveston, Texas. And so let's get into it. We're gonna get into discussion. I'm gonna read the general order number 9, right? So let's read the general order number 9 to set the discussion up real quick. So this general order number 9, right? It says the people are informed that in accordance to with the proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection herefore existing between them become that between employees and hired laborers. The free are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported by idleness either there or elsewhere. So that is the general order number 3 that was read by General Gordon.
Ain't that crazy? Not supported in idleness after all these years of forced labor. Who the hell you will call idle? That just stand out of my mind off the top, like idleness. What?
Yes, and
when do we ever?
Right. And a lot of people reading this, we had a lot of people who left the plantation, and we had a lot of people who stayed on the plantation, right? It says free and advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. Even though we know that those who stayed on the plantation didn't, get a fair wage or not a wage at all for staying on a plantation. So the Freeman Bureau, this is where the Freeman Bureau come in at, where the Freeman Bureau was also organized in 1865. So we have people that claim that why are we celebrating Juneteenth when we didn't even fight? We had people that served in the Civil War, right? We had people who fought for their freedom prior to the Civil War, prior to 1861, prior to 1865. We have always been fighting. And before you get to a Juneteenth and we talk about Emancipation Day on August the 3rd, which we'll talk about, it's another Emancipation Day that a lot of people don't talk about that we're going to talk about in this thing. But the Freeman Bureau was set up to negotiate contracts between the free person and the slaveholder, right? I mean, they also played a vital role at the beginning of the Juneteenth. They were very, very influential and very hands-on when we first started talking about the Emancipation Day, or we're talking about Juneteenth Day, right? So but yeah, go ahead.
So I noticed in the beginning that all 4 of us from 4 different places. I want to ask off the top, like, how was your knowledge of Juneteenth in your childhood, growing up, where you're from? Was it even talked about? Was it celebrated? I know where I'm from. They kind of just starting to do it the past 2 or 3 years. But in my childhood, I had no idea of it, never heard about it, never was talked about, none of that. So how was your experience?
I'll kick it off. I knew about Juneteenth. We celebrated it. I'm from Arkansas. Fort Smith, which is on the western side, I'm a stone throw away from Oklahoma. The last stop of the Trail of Tears before they went to Indian Territory. So it has a real history, and I mean, just history, rich history. We used to go down to the river and celebrate Juneteenth. I remember my grandmother used to take us. We go down there, they have food, we celebrate it. But it wasn't until I moved to Texas in 98 that I learned about what the day actually meant. You know what I'm saying? I knew about Juneteenth, but I didn't know how important it was. And a lot of people don't know that Juneteenth is called that because it's June 19th. You got to remember, we just were free from slavery. And what was the one thing that we could not do was read. So 19th is already a hard word to be a kid trying to say. Just think of an adult who cannot read trying to say 19th. So we put it together, Juneteenth, that's where it's coming from. So I learned about it as a kid, and as I got older, I started learning how more significant it was. And when it became a holiday, I was excited about it. I mean, it something finally we get some type of acknowledgement for something. I mean, and that was 158 years, I think, after it was first put in. So I mean, thank you, but I mean, I don't appreciate that. I mean, everybody can celebrate our day. That's our day. I mean, that's almost like Black History Month. Like, yeah, we appreciate you doing putting your little score bands and all what you got to do, but that's our day. We don't need your pity. We can support our own selves. We gonna encourage our own selves on that. So that's my take on Juneteenth. I love Juneteenth.
And listen, I appreciate it as well. And growing up, I was a part of like the parade. So we had the parades and that type of celebration. But the information, I don't remember it being a lot of education on why it was celebrated and how it was in, the relationship to Texas specifically. I thought, I had my own ideas about it. And plus, I really wasn't as connected to history as a kid as I am now. And so, it was a day we celebrated and we went on. Now I'm like, I ain't going to work. I ain't doing, I'm so like you process it differently. And I appreciate the fact that it's celebrated. Shout out to, to Opalie for being amazing. We ran across her a couple of times at the Pan African Connection bookstore. She's still out mobile and about. And I didn't even realize that's who it was. Somebody had asked me to take a picture of her. And I was like, okay, sure. And then afterwards I was like, is that Opalie? Like, so again, I just love the fact that she is alive to see her work come into fruition, because a lot of our people work and they don't get to see the fruit of their labor. So I love that she's connected to it. Would I like it to be a little bit more radical? Yeah, but I have to understand that we are in the space of wanting to be inclusive and wanting to share information with people about the truth of our history.
It's going to take time for it to take off. It might take a couple more decades before it gets to that point. Because somebody said on Juneteenth, they was like, man, somebody in D.C., they was like just walking around. I don't hear anybody saying, well, happy Juneteenth. Like acknowledging each other like you do for other national holidays.
Right.
But it's just starting to get that traction. So it's going to take time for it to be everybody on the same page, on board kind of situation.
Yeah, it was at one time. It was at one time when you go back and look through the history of Juneteenth. This is where the origin of family reunion comes from Juneteenth, because once the our ancestors were no longer enslaved, right? They started going to try to find their family. And then Juneteenth started out in churches, right? And with watch night. And then you had some individuals who bought 10 acres of land. And this is when it became a thing for the public, right? So now this become a public event, right? So they created a park, which is the oldest park in Houston, Texas today. It was called the Emancipation Park, but now it's called, I think it's called, I don't know if it's the Frederick Douglass Park or it's I can't remember. I think it was the Frederick Douglass Park, but I could be mistaken. But it used to be the Emancipation Park, right? This was the oldest park. They got together. They was able to purchase 10 acres of land, right? So and then you see later on some more individuals in Austin, Texas, purchased acres of land and then made it a public event for the public where we all would come out, because you have to understand that a lot of us, even those people that we spoke about in Texas, they migrated into Mississippi. They migrated into Arkansas. They migrated into Louisiana. They migrated in Memphis. They migrated in all these different places. So they took what they learned from that day of being free and them starting to celebrate it in the churches, and then it started to become a public thing. So I want to ask y'all being involved in or seeing or being a spectator of Juneteenth, give me some of the things that y'all saw in these things. You mentioned a while ago parading. We're going to talk about parading in a minute because I'm going to read some things from this. But first, give me some of the things that y'all see when y'all at the Juneteenth celebration or these emancipation celebrations. What are some of the things that y'all see?
I mean, one of the things is community and family. I mean, you see people come together, friends come together. I mean, that's when, I guess, if that's a family reunion, that's when all the information is being passed around. So it's the communication and the unity of us coming together. We get to talk, we get to hang out, laugh, crack the jokes. Kids get to play the game. They get to be kids. They get to meet different kids. So it's almost like networking for family, I guess, if you want to call it like that.
That makes sense. And then I learned about the flag, the Juneteenth flag, from our partners at the Hidden History DFW. So it's different pieces that are still being uncovered to me in my journey through learning about Juneteenth in that space.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Sean?
Now, I want to say, unfortunately, where I live at, we always like 20, 50 years behind the time on everything, it seemed like. So, like, from what I saw whenever I was out there where I live, it was more like a regular, like a festival or a fair you might have. Okay. You have food and drink and music, but it was no real emphasis on, I would say, the history of Juneteenth or why there is a Juneteenth. Why are we celebrating? It was no real emphasis put on that. I would have loved to see more of that along with the celebration. Let's talk about why we here, what we doing to educate the youth coming up once again.
And see, those were the things.
Food and drinks and whatever is no different than in the other festival all year long. We just drinking and smoking and riding festival rides. Like, how is it any different?
And see, we going back in the beginning, you mentioned food, drinks, and so forth, right? We're going to talk about that. But in the beginning, Juneteenth wasn't just one day. Juneteenth was multiple days, 3 and 4 days, where they would do certain things. And a lot of the things would be about education, but it would also be you reuniting with your family and also having a good time. So when you go into Juneteenth, and I've been a part of the Juneteenth festivals for years. My lodge, we used to be security, and they used to allow us to have a booth to make money for my nonprofit organization. So every year we would make money for my nonprofit organization so we can distribute those funds back out in the community, right? So when we're there, no matter what function you go through, you're going to see people with barbecue. You're going to see drinking. You're going to see baseball games. You're going to see, and some you're going to see contests with the children and adults. You're going to see pageants. You're going to see parades. These are rituals. These are rituals that come out of our ancestors being kidnapped. Easter and Christmas was the so-called holiday for our ancestors on the plantation. So around Christmas, they was allowed to have 6 days off around Christmas for this so-called holiday going into the new year. And we see these things in the church. Also, we celebrating in church in the new year. All these are rituals that comes out of the so-called slave holidays. These are rituals that we took and we implemented and inserted into our emancipation days, right? So when we get to a Juneteenth, but we can get to, which is June the 19th, we see the same thing on August the 3rd. We see the same thing on September the 19th. We see the same thing on December the 18th. These are all emancipation days that we can talk about later on, these other emancipation days, which is the same thing that has the same rituals. So when you come to this book, it says spirit athlete contests and other slavery holidays, customs that has been borrowed by the emancipation celebrants. At Christmas, a slave would run a race, and the election day observed notes that the holidays that afternoon we spent in dancing, game quarrels, athlete exercise. Quotas is which closely related to horseshoes, has been defined as a game in which is the Griots, flattened rings of iron and circle ropes are thrown upright in an attempt to ring the pin and comes to near to impossible. Frederick Douglass cited playing ball, which is I talked about playing ball. Playing ball, you see that in a lot of Juneteenth festivals. Baseball, right? Playing ball. So that is a festival. That is a ritual that comes out of the so-called slavery holidays. Playing ball is one of the more popular sports in merit. So this is where I get where I talk about Rube, right? I talk about Rube, who started the National Baseball League and also participated in the Juneteenth Festival. He played ball. This was an important essential to the Juneteenth Festival, was playing ball, right? So it goes on to say that various rounders of town ball to forerunners in American baseball, there was extremely a game of English origin that is played with a ball and a bat and somewhat resemble baseball. Boxing was a major attraction during the last of the Pinkster. One of the researchers in Easter celebration has noted that on Friday evening, there will usually be a fight decided to a champion and bullies in the city, right? And it goes on over here. It talks about how Emancipation Celebration has carried on slavery traditions and featuring exciting sports events, handballing, advertising, and the 11/7 annual observation of September the 22nd, which also is another emancipation celebration cited and listed by kids and adults in games including catching grease pigs, climbing greasy poles, watermelon eating contests, hog calling contests, softball games, horseshoe pitching contests, and many other games, right? And it goes on, and I'm gonna stop right here because I want to get to the barbecue part because, and I thought I had it marked about the barbecuing, but barbecuing is also something that comes out of those so-called holidays. So what they did was when you go to like every year, or I ain't gonna say every year. At one part, I was a part of the Juneteenth thing every year. This year was the first time in about 4 years I was a part of the Juneteenth celebration or the Emancipation celebration. But every year that I went, and even including this year, you see barbecuing. You see softball games that start in the evening and go all the way into the night. You see ceremonies where they're reading about the Emancipation Proclamation. They're reading the General Order number 3, right? There's pictures. There's so many different things, right? And parading. The parading also comes out of it too. Let me see if I can find that because she mentioned parading. This is also another ritual that also comes out of our ancestors' so-called holidays during Easter and especially during Christmas, where they would the most of the plantations gave them 6 days off. It says pageantries of parades and is another slave holiday ritual that has been adopted by the emancipation celebrant. Masters and slaves alike enjoy spectacles of a mass of costumed slaves following their kings through the streets, singing and dancing to the music played by royal musicians. Eastern North Carolina, John Cannon, New Yorker Pinksters, and New England Election Day parades were among the most colorful of these slave marches. So a lot of the things that you see in the Juneteenth, those rituals are rituals that come out of us having our own, coming up with our own celebration, whether it's drinking, the red pop, you know what I'm saying, the barbecuing,
all that, yeah,
the red cake, all those different things, right? So that is the things that we see in a lot of these Juneteenth festivals. So I wanted just to highlight those things of where did those things actually come from? The things that you see in these ceremonies and the things that we do, where did it come from? Because a lot of people don't speak about those rituals, and go ahead, Sean.
Let me pose a question to the panel. So I love the history of all the rituals and what you laid out, my brother, with the research. What do y'all think about the commercialization of Juneteenth? Right? I know Dr. Wade and I talked about this a while back about a whole different holiday, but like when you see a place like Target and some of these other stores, and now you want to have Juneteenth merchandise and T-shirts because it's gonna be a sale, it's gonna spike the sales up. What do y'all think about that?
I don't like you. It's just flat out. I'm like that. Y'all still using us to benefit yourself. Why? But Juneteenth been around. Don't wait till it come a federal holiday to finally acknowledge it.
I guess the two-sided sword is how they so slick. They will get, let's be hypothetical. Let's say Dr. Wade had a bunch of merchandise. they'll say, okay, we're giving Dr. Wade a contract, and now you can find Dr. Wade products at Target, and we all gonna post it and share it and go crazy. Oh yeah, she got a Target contract. But like, is that really them being honest and want to give her a leg up, or they know it's a strategy, it's a tactic, it's a tool? So it's kind of like that's the dichotomy of it. You know?
And you know what? I accept that. And I think that depends on people's level of liberation, because there are a lot of even local people. And I get it, because if you work on something and it's your baby, you want it to be cultivated. You would love to see it in mainstream where more people can patronize it. So I get that part. But at what cost?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And so it depends on, I think, on your own level of personal liberation, what you choose to subscribe to. Just like my book and the way that I, spend time in the community. Sunny Southside Food Park, Sunny South Dallas Food Park, Pan-African Connection. And there's no angst against any other places, but I know the community, the culture, that is important at those places. So that's where I want to be. So again, these people, I would love to be like, oh, my book is, Amazon bestseller or whatever. But at the same time, you have to weigh those options. Like, who is your audience then? Does your audience then get washed away?
Somebody said in the chat about capitalism. It's true, because I have been blessed to be an Amazon bestseller a couple of times. I have been blessed to have a Barnes & Noble's book signing, and that's some of my biggest events in my life. But to be totally honest, even mathematically, I make more money selling books at the barbershop in the hood versus Barnes & Noble's. That's a real fact.
Because I get $2 and $3, when this I sell it on Amazon, I get what, a couple of dollars, maybe some cents off of
Kofi mentioned percentages earlier for a little bit. We touched on percentages, but when I had my big, huge Barnes & Noble's book signing, I made the least amount of money that day.
And
I made more money in other smaller, quote unquote, venues.
Yep. And you got to split the venue. Didn't you have to split the venue? And they'll ask you to split the profit. Don't you have to split? Did you have to split the profits with them?
Hell yeah. Every book I sold, they took like 60% off the top.
And that's why I do not.
When I got there with the box of books, they counted my books. Said, okay, 60%. Okay, you take this.
Yes.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
There was an event that I turned down in Richardson, and it was like, it was some type of big production, and so many people will see your book, so many people get to meet you, but then it was like, yeah, but off the top, we need this cut. I'm not going there because I don't even want my people to show up there.
The education for the consumer, that particular Barnes & Noble's book signing, I was on Facebook then at the time, real heavy. That was probably the most traction I got on the post with the Barnes & Noble book signing, the most shares, clicks, likes, because it looked to the eye like, man, he doing it. No, I didn't.
It's got to translate, and when it doesn't, it's like, well, why did I do that?
So, I'm saying to only say we got to be careful of the games that we're playing when we're commercializing holidays and certain things. What's really happening behind the scenes is always my question.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're not benefiting from it. We're definitely not benefiting from it, right? Yeah, you definitely right. That's why I always try to be be transparent, man, with my clients about the percentages. You know what I'm saying? Sell your own intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? Don't, so I talk to them about the splits between Barnes and Nobles and Amazon and Books A Millions and Books Baby, the 60-40 split, the 70-35 split, and how much you will be receiving versus how much you will get yourself. Going and doing a thing at a book thing, it look good, but they're gonna want a certain percentage from each sale that you sell within their vicinity, right? Or putting your book in. It's cool. Okay, I don't do consignment. So I explain to my clients about consignment. So you have to educate yourself. These things look good, to the beholder, but it's not. So you have to educate yourself. Go ahead.
So, brother Matt, you in the actual school system, and I love that, man. So, do you think now that Juneteenth is a nationally recognized federal holiday, is it going to be talked about more in school, like an actual lessons and curriculum? Since they're banning books right now, and they're banning CRT and everything, Can we discuss Juneteenth at school?
I'll say this: being in the state of Texas shouldn't have to wait to be a federal holiday to be acknowledged. It's Texas' fault why we have Juneteenth. They waited 2 years to let slaves. Actually, well, 2 years technically, but they waited to the last minute to make slaves free. So if the state of Texas automatically, before it became a federal holiday, should be teaching us, because this is part of Texas history. I was mad when my last semester we read Juneteenth, and that page was 3 pages long. The section for that chapter was 3 pages long. It was the short Reconstruction was
crazy.
Right, and it's a Texas social studies book. This is about the same text. It was only 3 pages long.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
bro. I don't want to go too out the way, but this always just blows my mind when I ask people from a certain state about something that's major in their state, and they're like, "Man, I never heard that before in my life." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I got so many Chicago homeboys didn't know about Emmett Till. He's from Chicago. So many Chicago homeboys until Lil Wayne put in the song.
Okay.
No, I'm being serious. I'm not
that's saying. That's saying.
Until
Oh, it's
Lil
saying.
Wayne put it in the song, my Chicago homeboys like, "Oh, Emmett Till." What?
So it's like we need to start paying attention, and I love that he's in the school system, and we've been able to visit him once or twice. My homeboy Mark that's on here, and they want it. They love him. First of all, kids love Matt, and they love to be taught, because a lot of kids, we think they don't want to learn nothing. No, it's not that they don't want to learn. They want to learn something useful.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are a whole different breed. They'll learn the arithmetic, but they want to learn something useful.
This is why I mentioned the movies earlier, right? It might sound like, damn, Sean, we're talking about that, because I know that these kids are different. My son got to see The Godfather of Harlem and see what the Nation of Islam doing to help people get off of drugs. Then my son finally asked, "Man, what's that about?" Now I go to my bookshelf and pull out Malcolm X and pull out this book, pull out that book. Until then, you don't care about that. You don't want to hear that. Until you finally see it and your mind gets sparked to it. Now you got questions. Now we pull the books out. See what I'm saying?
Yep, man. And well, I mean, y'all got anything else, man, on the on our Juneteenth celebration? But let me before we move on to that and get to the last segment. Slavery didn't officially end when we get to Galveston in June, right? We know the Civil War was over in August, not August, but April. Then they fought again over there in Texas in May. A lot of people don't talk about, but they fought again, and the Confederate tore up Texas, and it took a while for those black soldiers and those white soldiers to travel across Texas to notify and read the General Order Number 3, right? But it wasn't until December the 18th of 1865 that slavery was officially over, because Kentucky and Delaware continued slavery until December of 1865, until they ratified the 13th Amendment. I think the 13th and the 14th Amendment. So those two states continued slavery on until December. So here, slavery didn't really end until December the 18th.
Can I jump in real quick about that?
Go ahead.
I love the 13th and 14th, 15th Amendment. That is the most crucial amendments for us as African Americans. But the history on it is kind of twisted. So you got to think, after the Civil War, all the we're free, and General Order Number three, not 3. But I think it's 9. It's when Sherman marched to South Carolina and 40 acres of mule. That's where that comes from. But he said, your masters have left you. This is your land. We'll give you a land and we'll give you a mule, because you got to think in the 1800s, they had horses and mules were very strong animals. So that's that. But when the Union was coming back together, Jackson. No, Johnson was president. He's president because Lincoln's been assassinated. Johnson is from Tennessee. Tennessee is a southern state. And they didn't, to get the 13th, the 14th, and 15th Amendment ratified, they made an agreement. He pardoned every Confederate general, lieutenant, anyone who was in the Confederate Army for any war crimes, he pardoned them. So they really didn't get punished for their crimes against humanity, if you want to think about it. They got off scot-free, basically. So, and he gave them back everything that they had, they got it back. So it was business as usual. We still got we got free, but we still got the short end of the stick. They still could continue. That's how they created all the black laws. The black laws, black codes, noir codes, everything that they put in place was vagrancy laws to keep us from progressing. They knew exactly once we got free, they were scared of what we were going to do.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, if you go on wonderful Netflix, most of us got it. There is the series called The 13th, about the 13th Amendment. And there's one that came out a couple years ago called Amend. It's called Amend. Check both of those out to get your education up. Yes.
And I was trying to think of a book. And I ain't finna get up because I had to go through, I don't know what bookshelf it's on, but everything Mac talked about. It's called How Did White Folks Get Rich? It's a little small book, man. How did white folks get rich? And it breaks down everything that Matt talks about that he just spoke on, man. And it goes in more detail on that. But it's called How White Folks Got Rich.
That's what I be trying to tell folks. And that's why I love
the walking library.
See? You ask one question and you got all the or a lot of context, and that's why I like to go on different experiences with him, because they may show you one image, one depiction, but with little context. Here's this little one paragraph excerpt, but we get the whole context. We get what was going on here, who was the president, what they did, all for this to help explain what was going on at a particular time. I love that.
Before we leave, I want to say something before we leave. We need people like us in all the different cities to be like Matt and go to these museums in your whatever area you at. And like, I know we don't need no curator. I'm a curate this thing, my own little group. I'm a curate myself. And I've seen over the years different brothers do that in New York, Philadelphia, other places, Baltimore. Yep. And they say, you know what, we're gonna guide it ourselves and break down whatever we looking at. We're gonna do it ourselves. Yep. I'm gonna lead my group. Yep. We need that all over the Griots.
We're looking forward to traveling, even especially like with the book club. Like, this is only the book club that we have coming up. It's only our second book club.
In less than a year.
And it was about popular demand. People are like, oh my God, I missed it. What did y'all do? Or when we take the Hidden History tour, now since we have a relationship with the Pinker family, they're like, our friends did a book club. So now people are like, well, when is the next one? So luckily, we have that, the demand is there. People are like, okay, what's next? And so we're building into that. And it's okay to take the little steps, but we're building into, building a base of people who at least want to know the truth or want to explore. And then so maybe one day we'll come to Louisiana or we'll hit Mississippi and link up. Hey. You know what I'm saying? And just create a space for us, because what will happen is we'll go to somewhere and people will be like, what they doing over there?
Yeah.
At the most random places, a random spot, and then we can learn from you, Sean P, about what the history of, a certain park or a certain area at Kofi, and then we can really bring what we're doing here to different spaces.
Speaking of book clubs, Kofi.
Yes.
What about the Miseducation of the Negro book club? Miss Wade?
Y'all speak on it.
Dr. Carter G.
My favorite book right here.
This your favorite book?
This is my favorite book right here, y'all.
And listen, this book got on the table because of Matt, because I was trying to take the people on some Walter Rodney journey. And my Matt was like, hold on. He was like, how many pages is that book? And I was like, 400. He was like,
That's the PhD class, Dr. Wade.
Yeah, right.
That's the black belt class.
Yeah, that's not for beginners.
So this is where we are. And so coming up in June, thank you. Shout out to the Griot Podcast.
Yeah, appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all for real, man.
Yeah, man, our blessing, man. Our blessing.
The people gonna feel the love. That's what I want the most, is for the people to know that.
And Dr. Wade, your books are coming in today. I saw the little alert.
Yep, mine, yours, yeah, right, exactly. The ones I ordered coming in today as well.
All right, yeah.
So the people gonna be blessed, not just by experiencing the book, but experiencing the heart of you guys at the Griot Podcast. So thank you. Shout out to you.
Well, it's back to communal learning and communal. Even though we're not there in our physical presence, we're still making our presence felt.
Yeah.
And we're still showing our blessing to what y'all doing, man.
Huge blessing, by the way.
Appreciate that.
Because people were asking, do I need the book? And I'm like, well, yeah, you got to go get the book. But now we will be able to supply,
we got books. Kofi Piesie supplying additional supplies. I'm supplying additional supplies. It's gonna be a nice little gift pack for whoever coming to join the situation. It's gonna be a little something you might want to get there.
Can we give a shout out about that? Is that okay?
Yeah, come on, man, do it.
Yo, check it out, y'all. Dr. Wade and Friends, our book club is coming up. It starts July 1st. It's gonna be the first 4 Saturdays of July from 6 to 8 at Eloise Lundy Park in the Trinity Ball.
Negro Park number 2.
Number 2, let's get that right. It is a historic part of Oak Cliff. It's a black part of Oak Cliff. I'm excited about that. Like I said, that's my favorite book. I'm glad to be sharing with all my friends and my people. So, we're ready for that endeavor as well to come.
And not only are we going to read together communally, we have some great speakers that we're going to bring through to the platform. My homeboy, the Meta Catalyst, he is a prodigy. He's a young guy, but he's so smart, so intelligent. We love what he touches. So he's going to bless us. My homeboy, my brother had to come through with the knowledge, and then the Pinkert family. So it is inclusive. So it's not just going to be something where we sit and read. We're really going to learn together, learn about the history of the area, while we also learn about one of the father of Black history. So thank you guys for giving us that moment.
No doubt. We coming up. We finna wrap the show up in a minute. Sean, let's do the woman segment because we are over time, but we got to get this woman segment in, man. We can just read it real briefly, and once we honor these 2 women, we will say our goodbyes.
Okay, I have from Texas, Bessie Coleman, born in 1892, was a trailblazing African-American aviator who defied racial and gender barriers to become the first African-American woman to hold a pilot's license. Despite facing numerous challenges and discrimination, Coleman's passion for aviation led her to pursue her dreams of becoming a pilot. She traveled to France in the 1920s to earn her pilot license, as American flight school refused to admit her due to her race and gender. Her achievements in daring acrobatic stunts made her a celebrated figure in the aviation community. That's our sister Bessie Coleman.
Here's an image of her right here. So we want to extend honor and praises to Bessie Coleman, right? Let's here is an image before I read. This is Harriet A. Washington. And let me get the book. I know my sister, they just did something phenomenal presentation that they did was it about a month ago?
Yeah, it was about a month ago. Shout out to New Nation Goddess. We studied the medical apartheid. Shout out to her.
Yes, it's I tried to go back and reread the book before y'all thing, because I think I read this book back in might have been 14 or might have been 14 or 15 when I read this book. I tried to go back and reread it before y'all did y'all show or whatever, because it was a thing. But I ain't get but probably think about the 4th chapter and
it's deep and it's long.
It's
technical. It's very technical.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. So
one of the most technical.
Yes. So this is Harriet A. Washington. Harriet A. Washington is the author of Medical Apartheid, which she's authored other 2 books that I need to get.
Yeah, she got the other books fire. They're fire. Mm-hmm. They're not as long, they're not as technical. Just for the viewers, they're not as long and as technical.
Mm-hmm. the author Medical Portal, which won a National Book Critics Circle Award, the 2007 Penn Oakland Award, and the 2007 American Library Associate Black Caucus Nonfiction Award. She has been a fellow. She has been a fellow in medical ethics at the Harvard Medical School, a senior research scholar at the National Center of Bioethics at Tuskegee University, a fellow at the Harvard School of Public Health, and a recipient of the John S. Knight Fellowship at Stanford University. She is an author of The Infectious Madness and the Deadly Monopolies and Medical Portal. So those are the three books. Again, here is Medical Apartheid. This is the public only publication that I own, but I definitely got to get those other two. You had those other two publications, son?
I do have them, but not in front of my face to read off the titles.
Yeah. So those I definitely got to get those. So man, we definitely appreciate our special guest.
Yeah,
y'all
first time guest, first time.
Yes, first right, the first guest on
time.
the Griot Podcast, man. So go
Hey,
ahead,
Kofi
Sean.
and I talked about this last night. Whenever you guys finish, I know you're doing it all July, the book club, but like later on in the year, maybe September sometime, we'll come back and reconvene and talk about how it was, the responses, how it went, stuff like that. A recap.
Love that.
Yeah. I had fun today. I definitely enjoy y'all. Y'all are family, Anytime I call you my brother and my sister, you know what I'm saying? I don't throw those words out loosely.
No.
And I appreciate my short stint on Instagram. I said I was gonna come and raise hell on Instagram this year. And so I've been doing a good job, but I've been meeting some good people, man. So I appreciate meeting you, Dr. Wade. I appreciate meeting you, Matt. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have showed me nothing but love, and as if it's anything that I'm that y'all need from me or from Sean or from the Griot Podcast, man, just just hit us up, man, and we'll be glad to help. If we can help, we're gonna be glad to help. Like when y'all had the thing about sponsoring the books, it was a no-brainer for us. We said we're gonna sponsor. We're gonna
straight to it.
Went straight to it. No throw, So whatever.
Kofi said it, I'm going straight clicking like.
We're growing and we're learning that people will support. You know what I'm saying? So we're learning those things. Thank y'all for showing us that people will support. Because at first, who's gonna support this? Or who gonna?
As I told Dr. Wade in private, man, I'm gonna say it in public. We all got to do it. We got to be more vocal about what we're trying to do, what your ideas are, what your plans are, because you never know who is willing and able to aid in whatever you're trying to do, man. Don't be so private about your plans and all that. Oh, they're gonna steal my idea. They're gonna take my. We got to stop all that in the community, bro. Be vocal about what you got going on, man.
Right.
People want to see you win, bro. Believe it or not.
Yes, sir. So y'all got any last word? We're gonna leave it with y'all last words.
I just want to tell the people to continue to seek and be light. That's one of the last sentences that I always write in each book that I autograph. Continue to seek and be light so you can be you and max that shit out. So go all the way up with your shit. You know what I'm saying? So we need to stop shrinking ourselves, shrinking our gifts and our talents and stuff like that. So be you, continue to seek the light because there's always going to be more to learn so you can be you. And then
facts.
I guess all right. Well, as my dad say, I do better to be with no stranger. So every day when I wake up, it's a new day, it's a new gift, it's a better chance to do something better than what you did beforehand. There's 86,400 seconds within a day. Make sure they all count.
Period.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all so much for having us. As your first guest, we feel honored. Thank you all.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all.
We totally enjoyed it. Loved it.
So we appreciate everybody that stayed the duration of the time.
Yeah.
We have people popping in and out.
To the chat. Yeah,
we appreciate the interaction in the chat, man. And we'll see y'all next month, man, for episode 4. This is episode 3. We do episodes once a month, so be on the lookout for episode 4 and be on the lookout for episode 5, which I'm excited about in August, man. But we're gonna give y'all more details about episode 5 on July the 14th or the 15th, I think that's what we said. So be on the lookout for that, man. So again, man, we appreciate y'all, man. Peace and blessings to everybody, man. Y'all have a
Peace.
wonderful rest of y'all evening.
We will.
I know y'all will.